like podcasts. My podcast that I was running with the band has exactly the same thing. It takes us, doesn't matter how many times we do it, it's like 5 minutes before the three of us are fine, like calm enough and just chill. We can actually just start talking like normal fucking human beings.
Do you guys sit down and plan those episodes? Like how do you arrange them?
We've been meaning to get back into it. So the way that we did do it a couple of years ago, it's been ages since we've done it, we would just listen to an album. Like we'd pick an album that we're going to listen to. That's about as much pre-planning as we get to it.
Yeah.
Listen to the whole thing and then just hit record and start. And it was kind of the worst in a lot of ways because some part of me really wants to latch onto like any kind of fucking, structure or like, just know what we're going to do, whatever. But yeah, you just sit down and some of the analysis and conversation that would come out of just being really, really free form and free flow was very, very cool.
Are you a structured person? Like, do you normally like to have
a little bit
stuff in place? Are you?
Yeah. I think I don't act like a structured person and I think I need structure. Yeah. I'm extreme. Yeah. I don't know. I'm very chaotic, but I thrive in structure.
That sounds like a difficult process sometimes.
For the podcast, yeah. For the band as well, yeah, it can be. Can be a little bit sort of.
How's it going with the band?
It's good.
What have you guys been up to?
Well, we've recorded 3 singles, or I guess like 3 acoustic songs, to announce that our drummer quit the band.
Really?
Yeah. So
are these songs out yet?
No. We haven't announced it yet because we were in the middle of mastering it and our singer has gone overseas and we have to re-record some stuff, so it's all fucking taken ages.
Yeah, right. So your drummer's left the band.
Yep. He was in 2 other bands. One of them is now like really, really big, touring around the world, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, really?
Yep. So he quit our band and the other one. So in a lot of ways, it was kind of good. We had a bit of an identity kind of fucking, I don't know, identity crisis. Oh, not crisis, but like revisited what the fuck we actually were.
Well, it changes everything, right? When you lose like a 25%. You had 4 people in the band, right?
4 people, yeah.
So as soon as that structure disappears, you got to rethink everything, right?
It's interesting. We started with just the 3 of us and we got in our drummer as we got Jackson involved as like he was just going to be a ring-in just for the recording session and then he stayed on. So he had written an album, recorded an album, whatever. Just like the 3 of us. And we sort of had always originally planned to be the 3 of us and then he joined in and was like, oh no, I'll be like a part of the gang. So we sort of made it a 4-person thing. And then when he left, we sat down, had a meeting and we're like, okay, what is the future of this band then? Are we just going to include a 4th member again or are we just going to always remain the 3 of us with fucking whoever's Ringo Starr, Like we'll just have like the drummers, they can always be a permanent fixture, but as far as the band organization goes and all of that sort of stuff, we're going to keep the 3 of us.
So, but you're gonna keep creating music with drums in it.
Yeah. Yeah. But as far as organization stuff, it affected us most dramatically in terms of like we've got a business account and all that sort of stuff. And his name is on it. So you have to like fucking do your tax return again. So
you got to go through everything.
You go through all that sort of shit again. Get everyone's signatures. And
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's frustrating. So we sort of made the decision that we'll just keep it the 3 of us.
And so you recorded 3 acoustic songs.
Yeah, 1 cover of a Colin Hay song. I don't know if you know Overkill.
Yeah.
Yeah, did Overkill, and then 2 of our own songs, but acoustically.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
When's that coming out?
Whenever it does. Yeah.
Are you making film clips for these and everything?
Would like to, yeah. So me and our mandolin player Jason, we've been sort of talking about getting all the film clip stuff all ready for when our singer flies back into Melbourne. He's been in the States on doing like work stuff. And then, when he gets back, we'll start shooting, recording, all of that sort of stuff. And then, announce it. It was all meant to come out like the start of this year, but the creative process is fucked.
It's hard, right? It's difficult to force things sometimes, isn't it?
It can't be. I think the more you try and force it, the longer it all ends up taking, I think.
Well, I've found even trying to put this podcast together, and I'm essentially the only person really getting in the way is me.
Yeah.
I only have to have these conversations with myself about what I want to do with it. I can imagine trying to organize multiple members of a band to all just continue flowing in the same direction and organize how and when you're going to do things. Must be pretty hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really intense. Recently, I felt like I've been a really big roadblock in that. Just like I've been doing a lot of my own life sort of things. And sort of it takes both me and mostly Jason, the two of us, to be both on the ball, both pushing for things to start happening. And every time I've checked in with Jason, I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm really behind. Like, I've been dragging the ball here. He feels exactly the same.
So you're both in the same boat.
So we're both in the same boat. It's I guess the big difference of having a band is I guess you get that support and you get that kind of confirmation whenever you check in, because like it is a lot of personal weight that you put on yourself to get everything going. And then when you have that moment of, God, I'm just a piece of shit, you get to talk with somebody and they go, no, it's okay. Like you are, but it's fine. Like let's just
gonna keep moving anyway.
Keep moving. Yeah. Whereas like I can empathize for your position of, it's like the Dylan Brown podcast and there isn't another fucking Dylan Brown right there, just telling you like, it's okay that it's slowing down, like you can have your other support members or whatever, but if it's mostly just your show that you're trying to produce.
Yeah, I guess there's pros and cons to both, right? I think having conversations, not necessarily confrontational conversations, but, I think when you're working with other members, you're having to like actually, balls up and raise things with one another.
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty hard. I struggle with that sort of communication sometimes.
Really?
Sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. Like just any sort of conversation where you're on a project with other people and you especially if it's a project where there isn't a defined leader.
Yeah.
Like who's taking charge, who should be taking charge, who's got what responsibilities, how to actually organize all of those things. I feel like sometimes for me, when I've worked on projects, to just whether it's at work or anything like that, trying to navigate that with multiple people, I find difficult.
Interesting. I fucking love it.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know how to put that in a simple kind of answer.
Doesn't have to be simple. It doesn't have to make sense.
I think through confrontation you get growth. You expand, right? Your own perspectives, however limited they might be, can actually be influenced, grow from whatever your own small fucking puny brain can create. Something about, how do I put it? Particularly when it's kind of artistic or creative, I always, the way that I envision it or visualize it is that there's the goal is sort of here above everything else. And I can always see, like I can see the goal, I can see the end point. And then any conversation or like confrontation or whatever, my personal ego is no longer attached to that because It's not about me. I don't fucking matter in this journey. So you can say whatever kind of hurtful nonsense you want, or you can say anything that might, like shut down my idea or whatever. It doesn't actually touch me because we're not dealing with you, me, and whatever. We're dealing with, this is the vision. This is where we're at. How do you get there?
That makes total sense. I feel like it can be difficult to separate yourself like that. If you have that ability to be able to keep the goal and all of that separate from, I guess, your ego, so to speak. So if someone doesn't like your idea, it doesn't feel like it's a personal attack on you.
I guess, I don't know. For me,
if that's the case, it's good.
I don't.
That's really good.
I don't know. As far as, look, to be honest, I've never really understood how to attach my ego to it. Like, and I feel pride for when you get the thing. Like when you've achieved it, it's not like I'm so separate that I don't feel any joy or reward from, getting that goal. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm the greatest. Me and this team, look at what we've done. Fucking bow down. But yeah, in that creation process, I don't know.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah. It's definitely, I don't know why. I don't know if people are just built different. I think I've definitely had more of a hard time. It's not like I struggle with this massively, but in terms of just taking feedback and taking criticism, even if it's in the right way and it's leading towards the right goals, still it requires, I think, more conscious effort on my part to be able to like disconnect and be like, no, it's not about my character as a whole. It's more just about this specific thing that we're trying to achieve right now.
Possibly a little bit of it has come from doing music.
Yeah.
When you go into a music lesson and your teacher's like, sounds like shit, You're like, oh,
well, this is the thing, right? Because you've come from an environment where you have all the pressure is on you, right? In terms of your musical career, you've been a soloist for most of it, right? Where if something goes wrong, it's because of you. Essentially, haven't always been working with a band, right?
No.
So you've had to deal with, I guess, all of that being directly connected to you per se.
Yeah. And so I guess if you wanted to analyze it, it's probably some kind of coping mechanism to not take it into my ego so much.
So with bringing the band members together, do you guys try and assign, do you have separate responsibilities of the way that you bring stuff to the table? Like even writing music and creating an album, you've all got a different skill set.
Yeah.
How do you even begin putting all those pieces together in some way?
It was pretty we sat down, we sort of had a meeting about it, and I more or less wrote up a business plan for us and just did it really clinically in a lot of ways. It was just like, all right, well, we have absolutely no idea how any of this is going to flow, so we'll just arbitrarily assign roles to each other based on what we feel is going to work, and we'll just fucking, change it as we go along. So as far as songwriting goes, our singer Tim is like a harmony genius. He can listen to a song and know the chord progression of it from one listen. His mind is just built different. And so we sort of have loosely got him as like a melody writer, and, the three of us do write songs together, but like Jason and Tim mostly do lyrics together because they've got a big sort of bank of lyrics that they have. Sort of maybe Tim and I are a little bit more in terms of like melody focused, and the three of us will sort of work out chords. As far as admin goes, it'll be between Jason and I. Jason's a little bit better at like just sitting down and fucking, getting shit done. It's like, okay, this email needs to get sent this time, this day. He can do that. I tend to be a little bit more sort of like I can roll with punches in terms of shit going wrong. So if it needs to be a little bit more freeform or just fucking guesswork, I sort of handle that side of things a bit more.
Yeah.
So it more or less boils down to Jason and I do admin. Tim is quite creative, and yeah, we just sort of chat every so often.
And where do you record this stuff? Like, did you guys go to an actual studio somewhere to get this done, or do you just build it?
No,
wherever?
we've gone to a couple of studios now. The dream of it was quite romantic, because a lot of, I guess, romantic in a way. A lot of music these days are all done in like bedroom studios.
Yeah.
And we don't really have any comparison point because we haven't really done a lot of bedroom studio fucking, music production. But part of us wanted to do it all. Fucking problem with the bedroom is that you can't do it live. You can't have all 3-4 band members playing at the same time. You have to sort of have a click track going, and you each record individually. And that's standard now. Even if you go to a recording studio, that's how most people do it. So you just all recorded separately.
Is it just easier? Like, why do they do it like that?
Sort of. It's easier to like produce. So it's like if you fuck up, it's okay. You just drop in and you just, fix that one bar. Whereas if you do it all live, if you fuck up and you want it note perfect, you have to do the whole thing again. Like, it's really hard to take in.
And I don't know, like the statistics on this or the percentages that come down to it, but I feel like getting 4 people to be all synced up and not make a mistake.
Oh, you can't do it.
Is really difficult.
Yeah, no, you can't do it.
So did you record all of your stuff live? Is that what you did?
Yeah, we did that because there was something to it. I guess it was like to pay homage to the style, like, because it's very 70s, 80s rock.
Yeah.
We kind of wanted to pay homage to that. And
do you feel like you get a different sound? Like, can you notice what do you believe is different from recording all the tracks individually as opposed to you're all getting it in together?
You can hear it in the. It's so subtle. It's so subtle. You hear it in the time. Like in a piece might like start at one tempo, and you can't, between each bar, you can't exactly pinpoint each moment that it's shifting, either a little bit faster or a little bit slower. They might end roughly at the same tempo, or they end just a little bit faster, a little bit slower. But in that actual performance, as we all get excited, it might get a little louder and a little faster. And then as we want it to all relax, it just gets a little bit slower.
So it's leaning in different directions.
And each performance that we did, each take, they all had different moments that were extra special. And so for like our album, it's one of 4, like each track we recorded, I think 3 or 4 times. And they all just had something going for them. And there's a couple where it's like, nah, that one was just not it.
Yeah.
There were a couple where it's like, I don't know which one is.
Yeah, how do you decide?
Yeah, and it's just a gut feeling. It's just like, that one was the one. Like,
yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I think this kind of comes into my life view a lot.
Tell me.
That the way that a lot of music is done now, where it's like I get all of its benefits that you get from having it click, and I know that you can push and pull back the tempo artificially, but it loses.
So you can create that.
You can create that, but I just think it loses a bit of the spice. It loses the fucking human mysticism that is so important to how we fucking live our lives.
So you think that there's something transmitting through that you just can't quite artificially capture?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've heard that I haven't actually tested this, and this was a 10-second video that I watched, so who knows. But they were saying like if you take like a Rolling Stones song and you check the timing of it at like 5 different points in the track, like it's always different in terms of the tempo. Like they're kind of flowing all over the place.
Yep.
But you don't, it's not like you hear that in some sort of negative way when you're listening to the whole song.
No.
You just it sounds good. Really? It just sounds good.
It takes you on like the fucking journey.
Yeah.
You know, like as a listening experience, I think I don't know if you get this thing like when you put on a vinyl record. I know that's become like it's more popular to have vinyl.
Yeah.
There's a little kind of ritualistic element to it where you're going to buy a ticket to the ride. You get the vinyl, you put it on, you're going to listen to it, whether it's background or not. Like you've taken an action to go listen to however many songs it is. Like you're doing that journey. We've maybe kind of, especially with music and like, I mean, this is such a big conversation that I do not know enough about, but as far as streaming services go and, you know, shuffling and all that sort of stuff, you kind of lose some of that, I don't know, artistic journey. Like when you just listen to track after track after track, none of them were meant to sort of be together. None of them have had any kind of consideration on whether they work together or not. I think maybe something a little bit is lost in
I agree. Like
that listening experience.
Yeah. I definitely think that if in the vinyl example, like if you've gone out, you've bought it for a specific reason, you've gone and bought it, you've put it on, and you know you're listening to that whole album in succession the way it's meant to be listened to, that definitely holds more gravity to it. Like I guess it just draws your attention into it more, I feel. You know, like I can easily just whip out my phone, chuck shuffle mode on, and I'm barely paying attention. I don't really care sometimes, you know, as opposed to if I'm sitting down, I'm specifically putting something on to actually listen to it over the space of like an hour. I feel like simply just it pulling in your attention to it seems to bring it more value.
Yeah. And I mean, look, there's got to be there's strengths to like both of these things. I think I'm quite drawn to chaotic music, or like I don't know. I've had a lot of people describe it as quite busy. Like I don't really have. I think it's relaxing.
The music you listen to, or the music that you create?
No, the music that I listen to.
Okay, yeah.
It tends to be also the music I create.
Yeah,
is quite busy, and I find like for me, it's like when someone's like, "Oh, just chuck on something chill." I'm like, "Oh fuck," I have like a real crisis moment because I don't have any chill music. The music I find quite relaxing is still really busy for a lot of people. If I'm going to go study or just go into the zone of fucking, you know, write something, whatever, you know, having something that's just 120 BPM, lo-fi hip hop beats, you know.
That's the standard, dude. That's
perfect.
I feel like they're like the study beats that most people chuck on. Hey,
yeah, and it's just it's quiet, inoffensive. And I think part of like the strength of that music is that it's not going to change. It doesn't have any surprise. You can jump to anywhere in that track, and it's going to be 120 BPM. It's not going to be faster. It's not going to be slower. It's not going to be suddenly loud. It's the constant. It's like the white noise effect.
I feel like there's a lot less variance. What's the right musical term? Is it fidelity? Is it fidelity? What's the difference between the most loudest parts of the track and the quietest parts of the track? And
Dynamic?
Dynamic? Yeah. The dynamic range.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like with music that's created like simply all on software, basically, where it's like more of a mathematical process, the dynamic range is like compressed in a lot of ways. Like you said, it's stuff isn't getting crazy loud and stuff isn't getting crazy quiet. And if it does it with an expectable timing. Like you know, it's definitely not catching you unawares. I remember when I had like the first big sound system at home when I was younger, I Googled like what are the best songs to like test speakers on.
Yeah.
And I remember like number one was saying, oh, what's it called? It's called Unfinished Symphony. I don't know if you've heard this song. Unfinished Symphony by Massive Attack.
Ah,
I'm not going to sing it, but
yeah.
everyone go listen to it at some point. But supposedly this song has like one of the biggest dynamic ranges in a song. Like there's kind of shit happening everywhere, and there's loud stuff and there's really quiet stuff and there's really complex, intricate stuff happening in the background. It's definitely not studying music. Like when you listen to this, it's like holy fucking shit. But it opens up a wider topic, and I know you said you maybe you can't go too deep on it, but like in terms of this is a big question, but where do you think like music is going in a sense for like the average artists, maybe not the most famous artists in the world who you know, always going to get something out of it, you know, but for the bottom 80% of artists, I don't know right now because I'm not a musician trying to put out music and make cash from it and make a livelihood out of it. It seems that with platforms like Spotify and all of these platforms, it's easier to get potentially more exposure, but then being able to convert that into
shit is
into real assets and real money is potentially harder than the past. What do you think of that? I don't actually know.
Yeah, it's such a big question, and I feel like every time I think about this question, I come up with a completely different answer.
What's the answer today?
The answer today is, I think I'm quite optimistic about music and where everything is at the moment. I think right now is actually an extraordinarily exciting time to be a musician.
Really?
Yeah, because for a couple of things, I think we've had about 20, I guess, 25 years now coming up pretty much. 25 years of complete like dominance of dominance in like by the music industry in terms of big pop artists and all that sort of stuff. Like there's two things simultaneously going on. I think it's really easy to be an independent artist because, like you say, you've got awesome exposure through things like Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. So you can just suddenly become a star from your own bedroom. So anything goes. It doesn't fucking matter what it is that you're creating. You don't have to have the sound that is popular. And we have, unlike in the 80s and 90s, these days we have the record labels chasing the little guys in terms of what's going to be the next big sound. They don't get to decide because they don't have fucking control anymore.
Yeah. Which is great.
It's fucking awesome. Yeah. So it's super exciting to be an artist because you can do whatever it is that you want and there's a chance that you might make it big.
Because you can reach the public directly.
Yeah.
With no middle company pushing you out there.
No. But I also think that we are simultaneously hitting a saturation point of I guess my internal pessimist looks at how big Spotify is, how big YouTube is. I was a kid of the early internet days. Not like my parents, but pretty much my dad was a big, computer nerd. So you'd remember, like had dial-up internet, all that sort of.
Bro, you were deep in it. I was coming straight out the jungle, hadn't seen a screen or electricity in days, and then I'd walk into your house and you'd have shit going on, which is extremely. I wouldn't know how to use a computer if it wasn't for you, actually.
Yeah. And back then, I don't know how we did this, but you just found internet pages, and they would just be like you would just host. I remember hosting my own internet page. Fuck knows what was on it. I think like some animation and some like drawings I'd done on Paint, like a couple of stories, whatever. I was, this is so cool. Just, and a couple of people would find it and they would write comments in there. And that was the internet. You just like, and now when you think of the internet, It's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube.
The platforms are the first frontier.
Yeah. And then like business sites. And then that is it. And so in some ways, while record labels don't have any control, we are somewhat being controlled by where the algorithm is pushing people. And I don't know where that's going other than I think about that and I wonder, we are just at the whims of some CEO and the board and whatever their algorithm is doing. Like, if you're an artist, it is simultaneously really exciting and terrifying, I think, because you might just never be discovered or like you might just get discovered and then for whatever reason that company just decides to shut you down. And like this is a really big thing for YouTube people where your videos just start getting demonetized for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
And you go try to deal with them and they have this like terrible fucking claim sort of, try and put in your ticket, goes nowhere. They say, oh, go follow this link to dispute our demonetization. You click that link and there's a tutorial on how to dispute it. And it's like, click this link to dispute it. And you click it and it takes you back to the first page that sends you in this fucking endless loop.
It's like call and send a link.
Yeah. And but you have no agency, you have no recourse for changing anything there.
There's no judicial system built into these things. So
No.
Realistically, you don't have a means to really appeal something.
No. And they're all private companies. You've got no idea what's going on with them. So it's sort of, I don't know, because like trying to, as far as our band goes, we published it to Spotify. You can pay a PR company, but a PR like to help you sort of promote it and stuff. But the PR company, they have like real world networks, so they might get you some radio play, but they can't really help you in any kind of meaningful way for as far as Spotify or all these other big platforms that get you popularity. They can't help you there.
Yeah.
So fuck knows how any of us are gonna make it.
I have no idea, but I really am committed that I think that this conversation is an important conversation. Even if I personally don't really know how to have it and I don't actually know any answers, I think that we are at some sort of, I don't know if tipping point is the right way to look at it, but I feel like something is going to change or something's going to have to change, but I don't know how. Like for example, if you wanted to go independent away from platforms, like you didn't want to use platforms, like let's say the internet's always going to be there, but the platforms and their priorities will continue to change. Just for this example, like could you create your own domain, create your own website and like load all of your stuff up into there so it's not getting controlled by any platform, so to speak, but then it comes back to the exposure thing with how would people ever see it?
My mind is constantly there. I reckon you do, like you've got to play both fields.
Like how do artists make
like
money
that.
off, like how do artists make money off their music? If it's not, like do artists make money directly for their art? I feel like it's not, doesn't happen as much these days.
Yeah.
Like if you produce a song, you're publishing the song for free.
Yeah.
And then you make money from touring, playing live.
Yeah.
Maybe on the side, if you're big, you release a vinyl or some physical thing that people can buy, merch, all these things that surround the art or the song, but not necessarily people paying for just directly for the music.
For it.
Yeah, like you produce an album, I buy it for $30 or whatever. That's how you get paid for it. That's how I listen to the music. Like it's hard because as a consumer, I've gotten so used to being able to consume for free. Yeah.
And I was having this exact thought for maybe slightly different. I was walking along Smith Street going past every cafe, sort of peak lunchtime. Every cafe had nice, good music playing, coming out the front, wafting out, sounded really good. Wow, that's inviting. And it struck me that they're all playlists. Everyone, it's like there is no avenue even to do, because I know that trying to make it big as a musician for like my parents is hard, but Dad lived full time doing session music at pubs, at bars, like playing, you know, like they needed entertainment. They needed music to create the atmosphere for their venue.
Yeah.
So they got a band to play. But you don't need that. It's fine. It's free. And so like there's no outlet as a consumer, just like as an individual, like you buying my CD, or to go out into the world and talk to a venue, hey, can I provide you entertainment? Like there's very few places that are willing to or can budget, you know, for a musician to come and play.
It is the budget, isn't it? I was having this conversation with my mum the other night because when she was like 20, 21, 22, going to VCA, where you went there, right?
Yeah, Melbourne Uni, but they had merged at that point, but yeah.
So back at that time, I might have got the dates wrong, but essentially that's what she did. That's how she paid her way. Like she'd be playing in venues. Like venues would need classical musicians for dinner service or whatever, you know. She'd be playing in the quartets or quintets. And I can't remember exactly how much she was making then, but this might have been in the 80s, right? And for example, if everyone got paid for a quartet $100 each for the night, you go for the average person doing that now, it's like the same.
It's the same.
It's the fucking
today,
same.
$100 like barely piece of petrol to get there.
Yeah, exactly. But back in the day, getting paid that, you could stay alive and you could live you could live a good life. You know, it was enough, as opposed to like now that's definitely not enough when you consider, especially when it comes to musicians, especially classically trained musicians who like the amount of work that you have to go through to be able to get that good is fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like you're like elite athletes of the music world.
Yeah.
And so it to me, it seems like this kind of problem. I'm not even in it, you know, but I fucking love music, and you know, I'm playing a part, you know, I just pay a subscription and I've got unlimited music as well. And then I think about, well, if I listen to all the music that I listen to, would I want to pay X amount of dollars to be able to build a library like you did in the past? You know, if you've got 1,000 records at $30 each,
that's an investment. That is,
you're paying serious money to be able to have good tunes. I would still do it 100%, but I don't right now.
Maybe I'm naive. I think that this is symptomatic of a societal structure as a whole. I think it's part of it. It's a symptom. Because if you want to look at, I'm going to like take us right off track here. When you look at what's going on with Woolies and Coles and the Royal Commission and how dominated the market is, and there seems to be a lot of general conversation about, I just want to shop small, right? You know, I'm going to fuck Woolies, fuck Coles, I'm going to shop independent. But also, and like it's starting to change, right? We're actually starting to get a little bit of shopping independent.
Yeah.
But every time I'm in fucking Woolies, firstly, I'm in Woolies, A. And B, all the fuckheads, you know, all my friends, hey, I saw you on Instagram saying, you know, shop small. There you are, just like me, shopping in Woolies again, like idiots.
100%. I mean,
it's so convenient. You know?
it's been on this show already. Like, I think this exact same chat's come up a few times, and it's not like I never go there. I try my best, but
it's so convenient. It's so easy. How do you stop it?
I don't know. I personally think we live a busy life. It's like that's a big problem. Like we live a really busy fucking life, and when you've got things back to back to back to back all day, every day, and you don't have a way to be able to buy yourself more time, or it doesn't feel like you can buy yourself more time. There's probably other things that people are going to do when they have the time besides make that shift.
Yeah.
You know, like you just want to fucking sit down and relax sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, if you got a bit of free time, you're not going to be like, you know what, that 1 hour free, I'm going to go to the market.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like people are tired. People are busy as fuck.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with that. As far as music goes, I think that the way that you're going to make it as a musician is to capture the people, because a big change that I feel is happening is we're all fucking aware of how tired we are. And also we get to just direct our attention a little bit to something that matters. And so we've got these more and more, we're getting splinter groups of people who I care about music. I care about reading. I care about independent supermarkets. I don't know, whatever it is, you get to actually put 10% of your fucking mind onto something that you care about. And so you'll change your shopping habits, or you change your listening habits, or your eating habits, or your exercise habits, whatever it is. And if you're, I guess, the vendor, if you're supplying the other end of that person's need, don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about the 90%, the 95%. Capture the 5% of people that are giving you attention. And like, I know that's very universal kind of business advice. Like that advice has been around forever. But I think it's really, really important. And especially today when it's so easy to get caught up in the hype of I'm going to become a big star through all this exposure. Yeah, like it's great, but focus your efforts on capturing your small, I don't know, your small audience. And, you know,
I think it's a real thing, because I mean, exposure, I guess, doesn't always mean money. You know, it's not in this world. Like you can get you can get 1 million people watching you for some reason, but it might not necessarily convert into you getting money for it. And with the world we live in right now, you need cash to keep doing what you're doing, really. But you're right. I guess if you can have, I don't know what the number is. It depends on the price of whatever it is that you've got, really. But you don't need that many dedicated people who love your stuff to follow you. I think it comes down to a quality thing, right? Like it's like bringing the perspective back to investing in quality, you know, which is something that I feel like I've done it. If I'm not conscious of it, I naturally gravitate away from investing in quality and invest in convenience.
Yeah.
It feels like a conscious effort in this world to be able to really focus on quality, everything, which requires more upfront investment initially.
Yeah.
Delayed gratification, all that sort of shit, which we hate in a busy world.
Yeah.
So it's hard, but I was having the thought process of like, how would you go? Like I was thinking about my Spotify, like I've got every song I love on there. If they just deleted that app and every streaming service just deleted, it got taken down, you know, like
what would you do?
Yeah, like what would you do? How would you go with no music?
Yeah.
Where would you go to get your music? You don't have anything physical anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like I guess when people had records, the fire is a risk. There's a lot of things that are a risk, obviously, but you don't actually own any physical music.
What I really like about that is I've thought about that for a really long time, and the lockdowns over COVID kind of gave a really cool insight into what an answer to that kind of question might be. I met all of my neighbors for the first time over lockdown.
Yeah.
And like before we started recording, we were talking about, like tiny home village and community and all that sort of stuff. And we suddenly had, during COVID, during the lockdowns, we didn't have access to our busy lives. That full-onness that was taking us out and away, gone. All of it just gone. All you've got is you, fucking 5 kilometers.
And heaps of time.
And heaps of time.
Yeah.
And I know it sucked for heaps and heaps of people. It sucked for me a lot of the time. It was also super cool, and I sometimes miss it. But the best bits that I remember was, and I had a park right down at the end of my street, and it always sort of had like kids and stuff. But I just remember going outside one day, and it was a sunny day, and just hearing kids laugh and play, just in the park, and I just felt good. And I went down, and there's parents talking, and no one's social distancing, doesn't give a fuck, everyone's just there, hanging out, like in the middle of a work week. It was awesome. It was so, like, I felt so energized and uplifted by that. And I think we sort of get gaslit by a society structure at large that if it were to all go away, we would kind of be left clueless and left wondering. But music is, for example, so to come back to your Spotify question, like music has been a part of humans and our culture since bones on fucking skin drums.
Yeah.
Like, if it got that bad, if all music got erased, every big solar flare hits and all the CDs get eradicated and all the plastic melts, whatever. I reckon, I really do believe, we just get out the old drums and start having a tap. People would pull the cover off the piano and have a little twinkle. Like, I don't know. I think it would be quite exciting, to be honest. If Spotify vanished, I kind of think that would be really cool.
In this thought experiment, and I'm not even going to go down the path of why that would suck, and I'm just going to focus on the reasons why that would be cool. I think it would be fucking cool because I think a lot more people would be a part of music. A lot more people would be trying to sing, a lot more people would be trying to play shit, and a lot more people would really appreciate the value of seeing someone else do it in real life.
Yeah.
Like I don't go to gigs all the time or concerts often, but there's something so amazing about and incomparable about watching someone play music in real life.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be cool if everything disappeared. I think you'd go back to it. You get that everywhere. Every cafe would have people in there doing that. If you couldn't play it over the speakers, you would have people making music fucking everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
So I would really love that to come back without everything disappearing. It'd be nice to bring that back, but I just don't know how. I don't know how it can happen. Like right now, I don't know what the right going rate would be to like if I was a cafe owner and I wanted to have live music in there for a couple hours or whatever, like what's the right amount to pay someone, and why don't they have the budget for it right now?
Probably because, live music sucks in a venue. You can't control the the volume. You can't control the song. It's like
everything's different everywhere you go.
Everything's different. Yeah, like it sort of sucks to have live music as a cafe owner,
I guess
they're fucking needy. They want free drinks. Like, I think you have to want.
I help my case here.
Yeah, wow. Well,
no, you're right. You're right.
I think you're going to have to want to be a patron of the arts. I don't think it's a matter of cost. I think it's a matter of just wanting that as an experience and knowing that your audience wants that too. That like people are coming to your cafe for live music as part of its shtick.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a shit business model. I definitely think that there's an appreciation for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
What do you think the best way for a music, in your circumstance, if you were to make money from your music, How would you like to make money? Like, which way would you like to make money the most? Like, for example, whether it's playing live, getting paid directly for your music, publishing music for free, but then having merchandise and other things, an ecosystem surrounding that you can make money from, charity, like donations. Like, what do you think would be the best way?
The best way?
Or that you would like the most?
I mean, the passive income way would be, if you just had a patron, the sugar daddy and sugar mummy that just paid your way.
Yeah.
That would be unreal. That'd be...
So people donating, that sort of thing?
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know actually how to answer that question. I mean, like I'm doing piano tuning to make money. Like it's kind of music related.
Yeah.
I'm sort of doing music associated things.
Yeah. How often do you do piano tuning? Like how?
At the moment it's like 3-4 days a week.
Is it a difficult thing to do? Tune a piano?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long does it take you? Did I see you post the other day saying you got it done in like an hour or something?
Yeah, an hour. That was insane. I was so proud with that. I'm pretty new to piano tuning, so I've been doing it for 2 years, and I feel like in the last maybe 3 months I've just learned how to tune a piano properly.
Like I feel like that's an obscure thing to do. Piano tuning.
Yeah. And I got into it pretty I was just working at a piano shop and I was watching my boss tune, and I kind of like that sort of stuff. I like the kind of fiddly, how things work.
It's technical.
It's super technical. And it's also really like there's so much art to it as well. So it's all like balancing tension, right? That's the whole job is balancing tension across everything. And the pins are fucked. Like I still don't really understand how they work properly. And no one that I've spoken to does either.
Oh, really?
It's like you turn them, but then you like turn them a little bit more, and the bit that's still in the piano doesn't turn. You just move the bit that you can see, and then you balance the string between where it hits the bridge, goes down, and you just sort of carefully arrange everything very delicately across the whole thing. And if you tune the top part a bit too sharp, then the middle section shifts a little bit, because the tension here has increased on the frame of the piano compared to like the bass and whatever.
Oh.
It's fucked. There's so much that goes into it.
Oh, so the actually like the strings are compressing one end of the wood, which releases somewhere else.
Yeah,
oh.
yeah. And like if you loosened too many strings, like really, really loosened them, the frame might actually collapse in on itself, is how much tension this whole thing is under. Or if you bring it up too sharp,
I would love to see a video of that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not like full on crumple, but it is like it'll bend, and now the whole thing's fucked.
Have you done that?
No.
On a $50,000 piano.
Yeah. It's cool. It's because like you can tune, you sort of delicately tune everything. And there was this, I just did a job for somebody, really, really good player, and he was playing doing like a 9 chord for the musos out there, and it was a little flat, and the G itself was in tune with the piano, but it was like an old kind of honky tonk 100-year-old thing, and it just sounded better having that G. So if you played it on a scale, it was sharp, but then when he played it in context, it sounded so good. It sounded really, really, really good. Every time it got put into a chord, it just sung out beautifully. But when you actually tuned it properly, and tuned with itself, super flat. Like, yeah, it was.
So there isn't always a right answer, so to speak. Like if you just, is it chromatic tuning? Like is it just,
yeah, it's like
if you get it exactly how it's mathematically meant to be.
Yeah,
that sometimes doesn't
sound good.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So you're chucking your own flavor on pianos in a small way?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's cool. It's a good job.
You ever had to do it on like a crazy expensive piano?
Think so. No. But my idea of what crazy expensive has changed.
I don't know what mine is.
So like,
what's a cheap one? 15?
Oh no, cheap one's 5.
5?
So yeah, About like 30, I've done 35, 40,000.
There's still a lot on the line.
It's a lot on the line. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, fuck. Don't break a string. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've been doing fencing as well, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back into it.
Did you take time off from that, did you?
Everyone in that circle has sort of, I described it as I've semi-retired, coming back out of retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been really, really good, actually. Mostly I've been coming back into fencing as almost like to help a friend in a lot of ways. My longtime training partner, actually like the first person I ever sort of did fencing with, his name is Woody. He's now like number 2 in the world for our sword system.
What?
Yeah, well, there's like a ranking system, like HEMA ratings for historical fencing.
Okay. Historical fencing.
Historical fencing. Oh, maybe he's number 3 in the world. I think he's number 3. Yeah. So he's like, we do rapier, which is like Princess Bride sword.
Yeah.
You know,
long,
really long,
thin
thin situation with like really elaborate guard, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, he's number 3 in the world.
How are there a lot of people doing this in the world?
As a few thousand.
Really?
Yeah.
So are there world championships? Is that how he's worked this out? Like how the fuck?
He's won enough tournaments here in Australia and against people internationally that it's like an ELO rating, like chess.
Oh, okay.
And so he needs to get overseas to go knock out the top 2 dudes.
Where are these guys at?
In the States.
In the States?
Yeah.
We're coming for you.
Yeah. 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 And that's a little bit why I sort of got back into it, because we wanted to make a big change in just our life. So I moved, our lease was running up, and a big part of the reason that I moved to where I did was so that I could be closer to him, so that we could just see each other easily.
Yeah.
And now we see each other sort of once to twice a week minimum.
Nice.
And has been a massive positive effect on like both of our lives.
Why were you looking to make that change?
Just because I was sort of sick of fucking life, and that like you mentioned before, that busyness, that kind of constant pull, and just always feeling on the go. Everything's pulling you, everything's distracting you. And I was like, well, like, and there's a lot of good research to say that everything if you have everything within a 5 kilometer radius, you'll be happy.
Yeah.
Like humans don't deal well if you have, like, as soon as you start going over 5Ks, you're traveling, you know.
I can feel that. I can definitely feel that. Like having to travel a long way to do stuff is fucking really annoying.
Yeah.
Wastes a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even the barrier to entry.
It's a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Even if it's 35 minutes, seems okay. And then you're there in the commute, and you're like, I want to kill myself. This is fucked. There's someone tailgating you and the person in front's 30 Ks and you're just like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cannot anymore. Yeah. And we'd been talking about this, and we'd been talking about the research about being closer to each other, you know, and seeing people regularly. And we're like, well, let's do it. So move closer, start hanging out, start rock climbing together, got back into fencing, and it's sort of been on the back burner, a bit of a dream of going and changing fencing, because historical fencing is still we're at a tipping point. It's new enough that the Wild West out there, everyone is shit. And if you're good, you can wreck everyone. If you've got a good take, you'll annihilate everyone.
So you're gonna have to explain this to me a little bit, because I have absolutely no idea about fencing.
Yeah.
What's standard fencing? What's historical fencing? What's the difference here?
Olympic fencing has Olympic fencing has well, firstly, it's established as like a real life sport. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of rules, and it's sort of it's it's evolved over hundreds of years into a very specific game. So its roots from original sword fighting have really kind of come apart. So it's like Olympic fencing is its own very specific game.
Okay.
Which is about getting a touch with a kind of flippy sword, and there's specific ways to do that. Whereas historical fencing is still, it's more or less standardizing, more or less, but it's all of our, it uses like historical manuals to inform how to fight, and the rule system is more or less if you get hit with the sword, if you hit somebody with a sword, you get a point, and if you both get hit at the same time, it's no points. Pretty much what it boils down to.
So there's still rules embedded into it, but as much as possible, it's trying to be taken back to its most practical base.
Yeah.
Is that a good way of
pretty much? That's a pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So with Olympic fencing, I guess it depends on the rule set, but say you might attack somebody and hit them first, but because you didn't parry before doing that attack, you don't actually score that point.
Right.
Whereas historical fencing, more or less their aim is that if you hit them and they didn't hit you, or like you hit them first in a way where they would have just been fucking dead, you get that point. Like you're awarded that.
So you're really trying to have a look at it and go, would have I killed that person?
More or less.
And not died?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And then because it's a game still, it gets a little bit funny for each individual kind of rule thing. So it is just still about like, you just get a touch on somebody and more or less that's okay.
Because what was that text that you brought in or that you showed me years ago now of that like 400-year-old sword fighting text.
Salvatore Fabris. Yeah.
And looking through that book, that shit was gnarly.
Yeah.
Like proper ways to kill people.
It is. And it's really good. And that's what Woody and I have been working on that really, really hard.
Yeah.
And we've really embedded it into like a fencing culture, into a whole like martial. It's trying to revive a martial art, more or less. And it's super cool. Every time we will take a chunk out of the book, study it, try and work it out, learn something, go back to the book, realize that it was already written there, what we've just learned. All we have to do is just read. And then we repeat that process and we keep coming back to it. It's cool. It's interesting doing that martial art. It feels more like a way of life than it is. I feel like I drive in a Fabris style. Like,
can you expand on that?
Yeah, Fabris is some core kind of concepts of it. Really, really simplified is that you don't need to defend; you just attack. And a way that I would drive is that like I'm always keeping an eye on my mirrors and all that sort of stuff. And if I see something in front of me happen, my first instinct, of course, I'll slow down. But it's to see if I can get out of the way of it is the first instinct, rather than just slam on my brakes.
Yeah.
And I've avoided a whole bunch of accidents. I think like 3 serious accidents from being able to just like go, have the instinct to just change lanes or whatever it was that I needed to do to get out of that situation. And that has more or less come through the fencing that I've done, which I know sounds really weird, but
no. I'm definitely very interested in how people, through all of their arts, but particularly martial arts, often have some sort of mental framework that you can somehow apply to other parts of your life. It seems. I don't exactly know how that works, but there seems to be like these mental concepts that you build with movement that can be somehow applied to a lot of other
things.
a lot of other situations.
Do you find that you do that?
Most definitely. Yeah. I would say that the actually we've got an episode that would have come out by the time this is out as well, with Scott, and we were talking about it, and I really do think that a lot of the mental models that I've built for physical movement through martial arts have sort of given me some sort of framework to be able to solve other problems in my life, or see life in different ways. Like a simple example is often in training you're working with another person, and so there's this constant interplay of you being on one side and you essentially being the attacker, so to speak, and then you being the receiver, being the attacked. And that interplay of constantly changing gives you this ability to simultaneously look at the opposite of what you're doing in real time. So if you're a person and you're practicing being an attacker or the aggressor or the initiator, it comes to this sort of point in the middle where you simultaneously feel like you're the attacker and the receiver at the same time. You know what I mean? So just like that ability to mirror your thinking and look at what you're doing in almost the complete opposite way, I found is a really fundamental way of problem solving and just thinking about the world in general. Like, this is one of the best ones for me personally, because it feels easily applied if you're dealing with any sort of situation, whether it's like a relationship problem or a decision that you've got to make. Sometimes it's really easy to go, what would happen if I indulge a thought of doing the complete opposite thing? You know, like, this is the decision I should be doing for a thought of experiment. What happens if I do the complete opposite? You know, and just that being a really simple metric of inversing your perspective. Yeah. And some of those things are really, that one's an easy to explain. It's easy to explain to somebody without physical movement, but I feel like there's some mental concepts that are really difficult to explain with words, but are really easy to explain with movement.
With movement, yeah.
Force, you know, like another good one is kind of like force meets force. And it's the idea, it's kind of easy to explain, but in a conversation, if you start just like attacking someone, like if you want someone to do something or you're trying to persuade somebody in a certain way, if you push too hard, they're going to push back. Yeah. You know, so you're persuading, you got to do it in a way that they don't really realize what's going on, so they don't push back, and then you've pushed soft enough that it's going to work. And trying to explain that sometimes is really difficult, but in a martial arts setting, you get that in 2 seconds, because you fucking push someone and you feel what it's like to automatically push back without any logic. Someone pushes you and you automatically push back. That's a human nature response. Yeah. So I could go on forever with that stuff, but I feel like there's just a lot of psychological things that you can learn much easier and much more efficiently through physical movement.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Which I'm assuming you probably get through fencing as well.
Yeah, through fencing, through rock climbing as well.
Did I see you traveling? Like, what was that? Was it just a holiday, or did you go on like a rock climbing holiday?
I mean, yeah, I've done a couple of those now.
Yeah.
I went up to Brisbane as part of like a fencing thing. So I guess Woody was teaching a fencing workshop in Brisbane, and I guess I went up as like assistant coach / friend, and our trip sort of got paid for by the tickets and everything. And then we traveled back down the coast with another fencing friend and did rock climbing, did fencing, and just camped.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. It was insane.
Were you competing? Were you competing or?
No, it was just teaching a workshop.
Yeah.
So yeah. We have a friend up there who sort of, organized something. It's really cool, really great turnout. Just like the big sort of Brisbane people all turned up, like club heads and stuff, showed up for it. I think they really liked it. I think they got something out of it. And and then we just came back and did some climbing and camped and had a lot of steak. Good time.
Nice.
But as the physical movement thing, I remember a conversation we had a really long time ago. You're talking about the idea of I don't know if you remember this. If you go too deep into like some kind of philosophical thought without grounding it, you can just end up going and going and going and going and going. And you end up some deep pit that's so far away from fucking anything that's relevant or human or normal. Because if you just spend too much time thinking, it loses its point, its grounding, whatever. And as soon as you can enact it and physically do it, it becomes real. And it also, I don't know, I have spent so much time thinking about the conversation. I don't even know if you remember it.
I remember.
Yeah.
I feel like we might have had a few conversations around this.
Really similar. Yeah. I think, and it was maybe that first one that we had, but I really tried to sort of let that guide me through, I don't know, a lot of what I do.
Do you gravitate towards lofty thinking?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I won't go too personal about it, but I've done a lot of work, like mental health work. I've always been super interested in it and psychology and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Fucking love it. And I apply it back to myself constantly. And I think there's probably a lot of people out in the world that can relate to this, but I'm in camp intellectualized to protect myself from emotions.
Is this a category, is it?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
more or less, yeah.
Can you say that again? What is it?
To intellectualize your emotions.
Intellectualize your emotions.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a defensive mechanism.
Right.
It defends you from emotions because they're scary and you don't want to fucking deal with it.
Okay, yeah.
So have something, you're like, oh, that's a bit too much. Oh, this is what's going on. I'm having a response to this because of X, Y, Z, and blah, blah, blah. And so, and off you go in your merry way, but you never actually process the thing that's happened.
So you can talk about all of it.
All of it.
Okay.
But you never felt it at any moment. And I had a bit of a catalyst moment sort of last year and kind of went, fuck, I need to actually feel some of this shit. And I was like, well, feeling's hard. I don't know how I'm going to do that. So
it is hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, rock climbing was something that I have always I first had a friend show me bouldering 6 years ago, maybe. I loved it and I wanted to do it and I never kind of did because I sort of felt a bit nervous about going by myself and all that sort of shit.
Yep.
I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll just go. I'll just go do this for me. So I started and I hate heights. I'm really scared of them. And you're at like halfway on a bouldering wall. It's not that high. Fuck, it feels high.
Feels high.
And then you're holding on to like nothing, bird shit. And you have to put your heel on another bit of bird shit. And, completely horizontal on the wall.
Yeah.
And you just have to trust it all and then let go of the only thing keeping you safe to grab onto the... It's terrifying. And sort of confronting that fear in a really controlled way and working through movement. And it helped me unlock actually fucking feeling something.
Really?
Yeah. And I was going through, I don't know, I started grieving a whole bunch of things that just needed to be grieved. Not, which is a weird way to explain it, but if you...
I think it's a perfect way to explain it.
I think I'd compartmentalized so many things and intellectualized so many feelings. And for context, for our listeners, during uni and even during high school, I was spending sometimes 10 hours practicing violin in a fucking room by myself. and then going to teachers that tell you that you're shit. Like, you bury some stuff in there.
Yeah.
And so grieving and experiencing all of these emotions that had just been locked away for so long. And at any point, if I felt like if I got too lost in those emotions, I could always come back to the physicality of climbing. And the first year of rock climbing is the best because you just get strong really quickly and you get really good really, really fast.
Yeah.
And then you plateau from your beginner sort of thing after 1 year. So I'm kind of reaching a plateau stage. Still really like it, but, it was just that combination of being able to come at it stronger, better, understanding it more, literally confronting the emotion of fear and feeling how I will grip harder on a hold by being afraid. And that the only way that I'm going to get to the next hold and finish the puzzle is to relax and allow the tension, allow the friction to really just connect into my fingers. And now that I'm relaxed, I can finish it. And it's such a visceral one-to-one kind of thing of what you need to do emotionally. Just relax and let it happen.
Yeah.
Let the fear kind of run its course, and then you'll get through. You'll come out on the other side, and you'll get that kind of feeling of warmth and victory and all that sort of stuff.
That's a perfect example. Yeah. We'll add it to the list. I've never thought about it like that before, and I like the way that you said 1-to-1. That resonates with me a lot, like a 1-to-1 example from the physical movement to the emotional pattern that you have to follow. So you felt like you could apply once you felt the feeling of fear coming or emotion rising, and you can either shy away from it or kind of lean into it, so to speak. And then if you lean into it, you got to relax to allow that to happen, and then feel the reward of what is on the other side of fear if you embrace it in the right way. Did you feel like that you could apply that to other feelings?
Oh, directly. Yeah, directly.
Whilst you were climbing, or that was now a tool that you had?
It became a tool that I have still. So much more confident and happy, and just like less what's the word? Not less stressed, but more capable of handling stress.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that rock climbing fucking made me great. Like, it was one part of a lot of different things, a big inventory of things. But it's probably the most invested into physical movement, and specifically how exactly I'm moving my body and where I'm putting tension. It's a very tension-based activity. So I'm, thinking right down to my toes constantly when I'm doing the sport.
You're really present.
Super present.
In everything you're doing in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And that has allowed me to just sort of carry now if something emotionally happens, I feel it fully affect my body down to my toes, down to my fingertips, the stiffening or the, the pump of adrenaline, even the numbing of, because, something scary happens and you kind of lose sensation of your fingertips because you're ready.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of that now in such a much more clear way. It just helps. Doesn't necessarily, it just makes me more capable, and I guess present is the right word.
That's pretty fucking cool. Have you gotten any other processes? Like, I know that this one-to-one process I find it difficult to speak about, just because it's hard to conceptualize and then put into words. But do you have any other tools, so to speak, that you've come across?
A few, yeah. Yeah, I've had I don't know how How much time do we have?
Fucking days, dude. We can sit here as long as we. There's no time limit on this.
Yeah. So physical move. I think doing anything physical, whether it's just sport, even if it's just walking, I don't care. You have to. I think the rules is that you have to love it. You have to love whatever physical activity it is that you do, even if it's darts. Don't give a shit. Feel connected to your body. I've been journaling now for about 6 years, I think. My first journal has 2 entries in it for the entire year.
This year or when you first started?
When I first started.
Okay.
When I first started, I did 2 entries for an entire year over 2 separate books. Next year, bought a new book. New book, new me. I got 3 days of 1 month. Got really excited. Did a full week, I think in August or something. That's it. Year after that, I don't know actually. I think I managed to get at least 2.5 months, and I did about 15 days of each month.
Yeah.
Year 4, almost an entire year. Almost. Missed about 3 months or so. 2 years ago, I same thing. I got every single day I journaled. I missed some days. I missed a month and a bit, and I backlogged, just what happened. And for context, it's I don't know if you know it, bullet journaling. So it's not like Dear Diary. It's more like a date, and just work 9 a.m. Meeting with Dylan for the podcast 6 p.m. All that sort of stuff.
Just kind of what you were doing.
Just what I'm doing.
Okay, yeah.
And then if I want to write emotions and how I'm feeling, I'll write that too.
Oh, okay. But there's no pressure to do that.
There's no pressure. There's no pressure. It's just last year I got every single day, and this year I've got every single day.
Every single day?
Every single day. I haven't missed it.
Fuck. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And I think...
What do you get out of that?
It's fucking a lot. So much. I have a real problem tracking time. I can't fucking track time to save my life.
I feel you, man. I feel you. Okay.
It's so bad. And it's emotional. Time is such an emotional thing.
An emotional thing?
Yeah. If I feel stressed, I have no time.
Okay, yeah.
I was, hanging out with a girl just last couple of days. I felt like I had 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm so relaxed and so chilled. And then I got home and suddenly I felt really stressed and oh my God, I'm dying. And I opened up my journal and realized, it's just 2 days. I planned it and I know exactly what's coming up. It's cool. And I just, everything just calmed the fuck down.
So maybe you can speak to this. This is kind of how I feel when I'm not actively trying to track time, I got no idea. I'm just floating around in the clouds, basically.
Yeah,
no clue. But yeah, when I do feel stressed, it feels like everything that I need to do or everything that I could possibly do needs to happen now and fucking all at once.
All at once,
basically. Yeah. Because there's no way to put it on some sort of timeline. It's all in my head and I'm thinking about it now.
Yeah,
and that becomes quite difficult as opposed to getting it out.
Yeah.
So you do this every single day?
Every day, yeah.
How often do you go back and do you ever go back and look at this stuff?
Yeah, I do. And
what's that experience like for you?
It's really cool. And it's a lot. There are some sections of my journals that I can't look at yet.
Too emotionally charged?
Too full on, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that I will be able to at some point because it's now been long enough that I can look at some sections of my journal that I haven't been able to look at before, but I can now.
Do you consider that growth?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think it's growth. I think it's I see it as compassion.
Yeah.
I think I'm now at a compassionate enough point with myself that I can look at something that was too raw and too real and go, fuck, that sucked.
As opposed to like beating yourself up constantly about it.
Yeah, or whatever the emotion was in that thing, just it taking hold. I can sort of look at it and be like, oh man, yeah, right. That's why you felt like that. That's what happened, you know.
Because that sounds like more of a balanced perspective. It's when you're in it, when you're in the thick of it, you're not. It's hard to have a clear perspective of what's going on around you. It's very difficult as opposed to if you've stripped away that intensity. I heard, you know, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Heard of him before?
Maybe.
He's an author and I don't know. I don't think he's a psychologist, but he kind of brings a scientific approach to the spiritual. But regardless, I heard something he said, and he said wisdom is memory without the emotion, or the choice of having memory without the emotion.
Yeah.
You know, so you can just look back at it all and just see it for what it was.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
It's really hard. It's cool writing it down. Really early on in my kind of journaling often, the cool thing with a bullet journal is that there's no structure. You don't have to follow the book, and there's no pressure if you miss a day. You can backlog it, or you can choose not to. Whatever. There's no predetermined thing to you fill it all in. You know, create your own whatever.
Is this a specific journal you have, or you just follow you can do it in any book, just dot point what's going on?
As long as the book has a dot point grid, that's the one that I like using. Yeah. I'll start filling it out. I've got a way now where I kind of log out how I've got like a monthly view, and then my sort of daily log. And if you search bullet journal on Google, I can't remember the name of the dude who created it actually, but he's got like a whole. I feel like
I've heard of this. Is it the guy who did Atomic Habits?
Yeah, I think so.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. James Clear?
Possibly.
I don't know.
To be honest, I don't know. It could be
all good.
Yeah. He's got like a free YouTube video showing you how he sets up his, and that's how I started, and it's been more or less. I've adapted it a little bit, more or less like that. You can do like a tracker. So as each day of the month goes by, you can sort of track what you did as like habits and stuff. Did a mood tracker, arbitrary number between 1 to 10, based on how I felt just before I went to bed, on how the day went, and the time that I went to bed as well. And there's a correlation sort of between the time that I went to bed and my mood. That correlation, though, was always delayed.
Like it had hit a few days later or something?
A week later.
Okay.
Almost. So if I have 2 to 3 nights where I go to bed at 3 a.m. for a party or whatever it is, my mood will, 1 week later, almost to the dot, always drop by like 2 points. Also, my mood follows the full moon. The cycle of the new moon, my mood is lower on average by a few points.
Yeah, right.
And for full moons, my mood is higher on average by a few points. And I was like, what the fuck is that about? I don't know. I still don't know why, but I have
there's got to be some shit going on, right?
There'll be something going on, whether it's just because it's lighter outside and you can do more. I don't know, but I bring that up because it's so informative about just all these little, I don't know, things that go on in life. And like the full moon thing, I think is really funny. The sleep thing affecting a week later is super informative for a healthy way to live your life. I think. Well,
it gives you a lot more control over the variables, hey, of everything that's going on, where variables that you don't even know exist.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. You have no control sometimes.
The shittiest thoughts that you have, like there's such, because I love steering into a good depression.
Yeah.
It's just, it's fun. Yeah, just love it.
Brings you a lot of value.
Yeah, you really revel in it, become a fucking monster. And in the worst pits of that depression, you can look at your journal and you can realize that you just went to bed too late, fucking a week ago.
It's not because if you're going down this depression route, your mind's probably thinking a lot more fuck thoughts than that.
Way more. You can conjure
bigger problems.
You can conjure everything under the sun, and it's not to say that those problems aren't real. it's to say that a week ago you could have handled this, but this week you can't because you fucked your sleep up. And so, like, just go through it. Fine. Like, you know, it and again, it's that thing of the time is emotional for me. I think it's emotional for everyone, but that's a broad statement to make. If you're feeling really low and you're really caught up in the pits of some kind of crappy mood or whatever, it feels like it's going to be endless. It feels like there's so many things that all factor into it. And if you can just log it and look back, it just helps you to get a context of, oh, okay, cool. Well, this is probably going to be done in like 2 days.
Yeah.
And all the problems will be there, but this feeling that I can't get over it will become easier.
Because you're right though. Hey, when you're deep in it and you're down for whatever reason, even if you logically know that statistically I'm going to feel better at some point, I don't think you often believe it, right? Because I think if you really 100% believe like you're going to feel $1 million in 2 days, then you'd be like, all right, and you just sweat it out basically.
Yeah.
But it's that endless feeling of like it's not going to end.
Yeah. The suffering won't stop.
I'm gonna. This is me forever now. I'm gonna feel like this.
Yeah.
So it brings you some perspective.
Yeah. And you can look back. You can wake up the next day and you can look at your journal. You go, wow, that was just one day. All right. Cool. And
so now you've gone on this journey of processing your emotions through physicality. Do you get value out of intellectualizing your emotions at this point? Do you think that that's a useful or necessary process?
I'm in a transitory state about this topic. Right now I've fully radicalized. I think that you should embrace being either a himbo or a bimbo. You should just...
What's a himbo?
Yes. You should just fully like max out, become no thoughts, just strong, just like, don't worry about intellectualizing anything. Don't worry about it.
No need to think.
Don't think. Just be.
Just do it. There's got to be some truth to that.
I think.
Don't do that.
No, I don't think do that. I think the reason that I'm there, the reason I'm at that point is because everything around, we are surrounded by information. So, there is so much information about ADHD, buckloads of it. And everyone's like, oh shit, I have ADHD. And it's like, cool. Yeah, probably. Yeah. But then what? Like, now what? Are you just gonna, I'm about to say some radical shit, but are you just gonna pop some pills and fix it? Because the science shows that doesn't fix it. You can't just pop pills for the rest of your life and be okay. But there is compelling science out there to say that you can feel your way through a lot of the symptoms that ADHD creates. You can embrace all of the things that are kind of your like underlying faults, whether it's genetic or whether it's your family history or whether it is a combination of these things. It's, how you're raised, the fucking circumstances,
nature,
nurture, the society that we live in.
Yeah.
But all of the information around us isn't, it's to tie right back to the very first conversation we're having about music. All the people delivering information to you are just trying to get a buck. And so they want you to keep on finding out information. So you're stuck in this information train. Everything is about intellectualizing. Everything is about understanding in the world that is just around us.
Yeah.
And so if that is the default, if that's what is completely what we are saturated in, then it should be, I believe, it is my intention to focus all of my effort on being as physical as possible, because that's probably going to bring me somewhere in the middle. Because the default society, as I see it, the way that I understand the world, I see that society defaults to intellectualization. Really easy to find out information, all that sort of stuff. And so I'm going to aim for the opposite end of the spectrum. And because it's really easy to go do something like shop at Woolworths just because it's so convenient, I'll end up somewhere in that middle point between intellectualization and actually just feeling things through physical movement and, being present, exploring myself.
100%. I mean, bringing it back to like an actual experiential life, I think is something important. Like it's kind of all about reading about how to sail a boat as opposed to sailing a boat to know how to do it. And it feels like that. Like 90% of the facts that I have in my head are things that I theoretically or logically have heard and can regurgitate and kind of know and feel like I know. But only a very small percentage of everything that I truly know is something that, is an experiential feeling. But I think when I really look in and look at all the things that I know for sure, it's only ever come from an experiential thing. It's something that you've felt.
Yeah.
Something that you haven't just thought about it. You haven't just read about it. In the end, it's had to turn into some sort of experience.
Yeah.
That you holistically know somehow.
Yeah.
I like it. Radically pushing back against it.
I think it's got to be. It's the only way. Otherwise, I'm going to end up in just camp intellectualization because of my nature.
Because you've embraced like your journey with the physical world or doing physical things. You've embraced massively, haven't you, over in your adult life, as opposed to as much when you were younger. Yeah,
when I was younger, it was a little bit more popular at the time for, if you're an arty, to hate on sports.
Yeah.
We've all got, whether it's your parents or one of the friends of your parents, like someone out there hated sports, and that was like a thing. So, I played music and did nerdy shit, played on the computer and all that sort of stuff. And I was a pretty physical kid because, I grew up in the bush and whatever. But the older I got, the more I wanted to embrace doing stuff, kind of, like leaving the books behind, as it were. Well, actually, no, not leaving the books behind. I love it. I think everyone should be reading, but leaving too much of the deep thinking, spending so much time there, deep thinking, just do it. Spend a lot of time thinking about it, do it, follow that through, see what happens.
I couldn't agree more. I've read so many books on spirituality and meditation, like it's fucking ridiculous, like the amount of shit that I could tell you, but in the end, you could probably read like 10% of that, and really it's like sitting down and meditating or actually going through those meditative practices is where you're going to get like 90% of the juice.
Yeah. Yeah. Had you spent all of that time that you spent reading, meditating, would you know 90% more than...
Probably, but I wouldn't be able to. I might not be able to tell other people about it quite as good. Might not be able to convince other people that I really know with the right vernacular.
Yeah, that's it.
But you're right. There's. I was talking about it with my dad, and he was he was talking about when he was growing up in the 50s and 60s, where there was if you wanted to do something, there might have been one book on it, if you're lucky. If you wanted to go do a skill or do a craft, there might be literally one book in the library that all you have to go off. So you read this one book and you read it 20 fucking times, and then really all you have left is to go out and try it and put it to the test and practice it and experience it in reality. Which in his case was like basketball or exercise, physicality in that sense, or even martial arts. There's like one book on judo, one book on yoga.
Yeah.
And he was kind of talking about today's day and age where purely by the circumstances of that situation, you automatically end up spending 80. It's probably the 80-20 rule probably fits perfectly. He spent 80% of his time doing and 20% of his time studying how to fucking do it, to work out what action to take. And now it's, unless you take considered action to avoid that, it's really easy to fall into the trap, I feel, for me personally, of reading about it 80% of the time and doing it 20% of the time. You know, there's so much information that gets in the way of just taking fucking action.
Oh, man. I'd be saying, honestly, that those numbers are great. 80-20, I reckon you're up there on the top percentile. I reckon most of us 99% educating, 1% doing.
It's satisfying. I think it's satisfying reading sometimes because there's no there's no consequences. Sometimes, you know, you can you don't have to do it. You can just sit down and think about doing it, and that can be addictive.
Yeah, I still value a book a lot because,
of course,
I think a book in some ways is inherently boring. And so you are motivated to go give it a go. You've just got the picture at best and you got words and it's black and white and it's just kind of boring.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good the story is. I know there's page turners and whatever, but some books you can't put down. Okay. Boring activity, I reckon. So much of the information that's delivered now is all video and it's like really fast. And I think I'm changing the topic here a little bit, but
go for it.
As a big fan of history, the last time we really had in the medieval times when we didn't have a lot of literacy, the way that information got disseminated was verbally by people talking. So you got priests going out and educating people, and they did a good job educating.
Yeah.
And fucking really no shit. They just learned from the priest who learned from the priest who went to the Vatican and learned from, you know.
Yeah.
And so we have all of these, like, you know, you can look at the medieval times and you can make your assessments on whether or not vocational education was a really good success, you know, in terms of that. And I think we have such a visual, like, you know, with YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and whatever, it's so easy to think that you've done the educational bit that you get from reading a book by watching 30 10-minute videos. And it seems like it's somehow, for me, I find that it's more believable as a source. I'm more willing to take it at face value. I remember less. And like they don't have to quote any of their sources or anything like that. As far as, you know, where am I going with this point? I think that thing of it's so easy to read a book and then not do, it's becoming easier to just watch a video and not even get like good fact-checked information and then not do anything about that and still feel like, you know, for example, how to build a boat. You know, I just watched a giant Norwegian man chop down trees with his bare hands. Like, okay, well, that's how you build a boat. And so you've gone one step removed from actually how to do it. Does this make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah. It definitely makes sense. I mean, I watch chiropractor videos and fucking hell, I'm pretty convinced that I could cure a lot of shit.
Right.
But yeah, no, I agree, man. It seems that we have to make, I definitely feel like I have to make more of a conscious effort to make sure that there's just like the right balance of putting the practice in, because it's sometimes it can, you know, you're just watching video after video of, even if it's something you're interested on, which can be helpful, but you know, normally most of the information you need to begin, you can get really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like if you want to go out and, you know, for example, like I was trying to work out how to stretch in a certain way to like sort my leg and my hip out, and I watched like a few videos on it, and that would be enough for me to just start doing it. If I put in a daily practice of working on this,
Yeah.
I'll probably work it the fuck out, and then maybe in a few weeks, 1 or 2 more videos.
Yeah.
But instead, I've watched the videos, and then I've gotten those videos for the last 3 weeks, and I keep getting so many different ways to stretch my hips, but I'm not doing it. Like, I'm just not fucking doing it. So it's completely useless. It's literally completely useless to me.
I feel that it increases, the more that you know, it increases the barrier for entry of doing it. And I've got nothing to back this up.
I agree.
I've got nothing to back this up, but I'm genuinely convinced that it is a reason that we have a rise in, it's got to be a factor in why there's such an increase in depression for young adults and all that sort of stuff, is because the barrier for entry to just trying anything is so fucking high. It's so high. And you just keep knowing more. We just keep learning more and more. And it's like, yeah, I will bake that cake one day. I've watched it a million times. The recipe looks easy. All I need to do is just snap my fingers and all the ingredients will be pre-chopped, pre-made, pre-measured in the bowls in front of me. And then I just pour them in like that, put the cake in, 5 seconds later the cake comes out. The Instagram video showed me that's how it works.
Yeah.
And then I'm in the ingredient section at Coles and I'm looking at the flour and I'm looking at everything. No. I'll just watch the video again and it looks easy, you know, and it's like,
and
it's too much.
I feel like it's really easy to conceptualize these things when you think about something that you are good at.
Yeah.
You know, like if you think about something that you're actually good at and how you got there and think about that process, like you're really good at music, you're really good at violin. Like how did you get there? You wouldn't have gotten there from watching videos.
No.
Almost through next to fucking nothing. It's a good way to validate you on your path, but you got to, like you said, you got to sit there for 10 hours a day and just slog it out.
Yeah. I think aiming to get mastery in something, pardon me, aiming to get mastery in something, I think is almost, if I was going to prescribe one thing for the human condition, it's to try and do that.
Why?
Because I guess it teaches you perspective on, like, exactly your point of, you know what the process is. It kind of allows you to filter through the bullshit that is our modern world telling you that you can get everything quick and free and easy. Because in some ways you can, but the really good stuff, a really good part of being human is locked away behind just doing something. Doing it a lot. Doing it when it's boring. Doing it when it's fun. Doing just 10 minutes because that's all you could fit in that day and feeling good that you got that 10 minutes in. Like, there's a countless amount of emotions and wisdom and I don't know, honestly, like beauty of life hidden in trying to just master something. And it doesn't matter if you get the mastery or not. That's not what you get out of it. I think you get your whole life perspective, every waking moment, every action that you do becomes happier, more informed, more interesting for the pursuit.
So master something.
Master something.
Well said, man. I reckon we should wrap it up there.
Yep.
That was well said. Man, thank you so much for coming on. I always really enjoy talking to you. You're a fucking legend. For anyone listening who doesn't know Habibi, he's my oldest friend. We lived together when we were like fucking 2 and 3 years old or something like that, deep in the bush with no electricity, eating fucking yabbies out of the den. So it's good to catch up and talk. Man, small plug for your band. Where can people find you and your stuff?
I know I slagged on it a lot about it. Spotify is the place to catch us.
We love you, Spotify.
We love you. We're called Materia. It's like material except without the L. So yeah, we've got all the good stuff. You can catch us on Facebook and Instagram and get all the good endorphins there. You can catch us on Spotify. I think we've got our music for, you can actually pay us money, 69 cents.
Why'd you choose? Did 69 come as an option, or you had to type that in?
We had to type that in.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
you can give us, exactly, you can give us 69 cents on iTunes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
I don't think anyone's done it yet, but maybe the listeners can be the first.
Maybe we'll get one.
We'll get one good 69 in.
I'm gonna do it just for fun.
But yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's been really, really good.
It's a pleasure, mate. Thank you so much. You're a legend, brother. Awesome. Peace out, everybody.